Hey guys, Dev here at WeBuyHouses.com. Welcome to the Cash Offer Masterclass, episode number 48. 48 today. And today we have one I think that you'll like. It's basically what I think is a very typical investor property. This 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Fort Worth, built in the 1950s, looks based on what I'm seeing with ownerships owned by an older couple. And so, I have a feeling we're going to see a house that maybe has some deferred maintenance and things like that. And it just kind of makes it a good fit for an investor and a good opportunity for the homeowners to sell the home for cash and not have to deal with all the problems that the house may have. So that's what makes it really a great candidate. I'd like to point out that even though I'm looking at houses all across Texas, that the methodology that we're using here on the Cash Offer Masterclass will work anywhere on any house in the United States. It's the same methodology. The rates for repairs might be different and, regionally. And that's something you might want to look at, is how much per square foot for a roof and things like that. But the methodology works across any state, city, whatever. So before we jump into this one, I just want to say that it has come to us from Blue Bonnet Properties. And Blue Bonnet is a wholesaler. If you're a wholesaler, feel free to send me the emails that you're sending to cash buyers, and I'll help you evaluate your own deal. Or if you're a cash buyer who's receiving emails like this from a wholesaler in your area, forward those to me, and I'll take a look at them together with you, and we'll evaluate them like we do with the cash deals that I show you every day. And so Blue Bonnet, as usual, I have no association with them, no relationship. I don't make a penny if you buy a house from them. This is a house that they have for sale right now. So if you have any interest in it, reach out to Taylor at 469-283-6950. And with that, let's jump into it. So basically, this house, as I said, the specs of it are right in the sweet spot of what an investor's looking for. About a 1,600 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath actually on this one, 2-car garage. And so it's a very, very typical footprint for a single family home in most places, particularly here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This one is a little older, built in 1952, and you'll see that in Dallas and Fort Worth, some older homes, and you get out into the mid-cities and they're more like starting the 60s and 70s. I think we saw one. Didn't we see one in Dallas? It was 1908. So there are some old homes here. But typical, very typical profile. So when we look at what we call the big five, well, we see 3 of them here. The roof probably needs replacement. HVAC, 7 years old. Foundation, good condition. They're not speaking to electrical and plumbing. And, we could expect that if the house needs some repairs, it may need some general repairs in addition to cosmetic repairs. And you know how our model deals with that, and we will deal with it. So as we begin to start with step 1 of the cash offer calculation process, step 1 is to calculate the after repaired value. Now, that means what would it be worth if we bought the house, we fixed it up, it's in great shape, what might we sell it for on the retail market? Wholesaler Blue Bonnet's telling us $290K on the after repaired value, and they're looking for $150K on the house. So it sounds like almost a 50% discount to what it could be worth. Now, as you guys probably know from watching my videos, I don't really trust, or I don't really care about, I guess, the ARV the wholesaler tells me. I've got to calculate my own ARV because sometimes wholesalers are optimistic. They'll pick the highest number, or say, well, it could be worth even more if it was fixed up in great shape. And so, well, really, we have to deal with kind of the reality of either conducting a competitive market analysis using the MLS if we're licensed, or if we're not licensed, we use the method that I teach you guys here. And that's basically, we go to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, and my Property Radar tool. We see what each of those sites says the house is worth, and we put that into the calculator, and we calculate our average ARV. So doing that really quickly, The Zestimate on it is $271.3 over on Zillow. That's $154 a square foot. And you can see in the peak of the market, they had it at 270, now at 220. This is very typical. If you've been watching my videos, and what we see around the Dallas-Fort Worth area was a cooling off from that peak, but then pretty stabilized market ever since then and throughout the last year or so. Let's see, did they have anything else that would be interesting for us? Price history, nothing that interesting. Redfin has it at 252, 663. Realtor has it at 261, 600. That number coming from CoreLogic. So that makes sense. And then Property Radar, we'll see in my calculator, had it for 261, 139 as well. So right there around the realtor estimate, if we take the four values from those four sites, we get an average of 256. And I find that over in my calculator, that's $157 a square foot when applied to the 1,632 square feet of the house at 157 would equal that 256. So that's going to be our ARV coming into it. Now, step 2 in the cash offer calculation process is to go look at the repairs and see what is it going to take to get the house into that excellent condition where we could sell it on the retail market for around 256. Now, one thing I like to look at right at the beginning is to see, do we have some money to play with based upon what the wholesaler's asking for? And we certainly do on this one, because even if we had no repairs, it was in perfect condition, we could pay at the 70% discount, $179. Wholesalers looking for $150. So that tells you there's a $29,000 worth of repairs that could be done on the house, and this would be a deal that fits our model. And so again, it's kind of looking like it's in the range of a really good investor property in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or again, wherever you are. These are the kinds of metrics that you're looking for. And so now we jump into looking at the photos that they provided us so that we can get an idea of what's the condition of this property, what would the repairs be. And so let's see, we jump into their Google Drive, and there's all the photos. And we start in a closet. Yep, had the Ouija board. We all had that back in the 60s and 70s or whenever that thing came out. Go Aggies. All right, not much to tell from there, but here kind of you're looking at what you'll often see with the older homes. What I assume is a real wood floor probably needs to be refinished. Paneled walls, and but it looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. Ceiling looks pretty good. Yeah. And, most people don't like paneling in 2025, but, maybe it'll have a comeback. Okay, we're looking out into the yard, and they have a yard. In this bedroom, we are seeing a few things that will now begin to concern us. We're seeing some discoloration on the ceiling up here, and that's going to indicate potential water damage. Didn't they say roof probably needs replacement? Yeah, probably. Now, look at that. Probably 1952. It's almost like the wallpaper on the ceiling, which is kind of cool. But you're not going to be able to keep it because it's pretty much ruined by whatever has happened around here on the corner of this house. The picture's not super sharp, so I can't see a lot about the condition of the walls, but they look okay. I don't see any big cracks you could stick your hand through for sure. But yeah, there's your problem in this room, is that, and it could have mold issues and could require some mold remediation, which is a big deal. All right, coming into what appears to be the living area and looking up there on that ceiling, we do see, oops, I want that thing to go away. See at the top up there some crackage that has gone on, a little bit of movement or potentially damage if the roof leaked there, but I don't see discoloration up there. I see mostly cracks, which is typically more of a foundation issue or something like that. Looks like it's got an old carpet product in it that would need to go. The house looks like it's been kept in reasonably good condition. These people have taken care of it. They just they haven't updated it, and so it's a little. Things are getting a little old as far as carpet stuff, just like me, getting a little old. They got a train condenser unit out there that looks pretty good. They said about 7 years old. I'd believe that. Nobody's gotten a leaf material off the top of it. That would be helpful. You want to keep these things, you want to keep trimmed around them, keep leafage from growing in there and get it off of there. Keep these things free and clear on all sides, including the top. It'll work a lot better for you if you do that. All right, we see some legs. That tells us a lot about the journey this gentleman has been on. But so looking again here, don't see any problems in here with the ceiling. Sides look, this looks pretty good, I guess, as far as, it's got paneling, and I'm sure it's going to need to be all painted and such, but don't see any red flags in there. Looking in this area, looks like a built-in shelving unit going into that bedroom back there. Can't tell much. That's probably just shadows up there, but now I'm a little concerned. Okay, we got the inside components of that train unit. They said is about 7 years old, and it looks about that. And it looks, pretty normal. Pretty normal. We're going to assume for right now that this works. Here we're in one of the bathrooms, and that bathtub has seen better days, and it's blue, by the way. It's what you see in the 50s and sometimes in the 60s, some of these pastel colors, but that's, I'm sure, the 1952 bathtub. That would be a good idea to replace that with a modern tub, white, modern tile. Let's see how much more pink and blue we have in that bathroom that you'd have to deal with. Well, we don't see it. Maybe we'll come back to it. Okay, we're in the kitchen. Kitchen's just looking kind of rode hard and put up wet, is what we say about something like this. It's a reference to horses. Okay, I'm in Texas. All right. But, that's a small, looks like a smaller unit, or maybe there was meant to be an edge on that side or something. But, the appliances are old, the vent tops old, countertops old, cabinets very old. Cabinets could be painted. You could put a new countertop on that. Replace the appliances. It's a pretty full rehab on that. Ooh, again, I keep seeing things up around the edges of the house that make me nervous. All right, we may have been in this living area just looking from a different angle before, maybe this way or that way. Front door, entry, right? Front door, entryway. Looks like it goes right into that fireplace, that's kind of confusing for me. You guys see that? No, the fire. Okay, it just looks that way because of the floor. The entryway comes in and goes behind the fireplace. That makes sense. That makes more sense. I thought that was the floor, right? Looks like it's right in the middle, but then when you come in, that's actually it's built up. It's a step up. There you go. Okay, a little built-in shelf. That's nice. And, kind of some dirty, needs some TLC on the ceiling up there. And again, that flooring. And we're here in that, we did get back into that bathroom, and we do have the craziest shower head I've ever seen. But I guess it's pretty cool. You could point that thing anywhere you want. And that is just an interesting tile work, isn't it? I don't know that the outer edge really matches, but it might. I don't know. Yeah. Pretty interesting. Maybe not what we want in 2025, but it's pretty interesting. There's the front of the house. The roof doesn't look bad. This is what we talk about. They're telling us this roof's going to need to be repaired or replaced. And as we look at it in a photo, it doesn't look that bad. And I think this is one of the challenges you have with a roof. Man, you really got to put your eyeballs on it, and then you got to look in the inside of the house for any sort of damage that's occurred inside. Back into the kitchen, we're in kind of a wacky order, in and out of rooms. Didn't go in an order. If you're a wholesaler, it'd be cool to number your and maybe even name the photos, like 001 front entry, 002, main living, that kind of thing would be really cool. And you kind of like create a presentation for the cash buyers that are looking at the photos. Just an idea. Yeah, the cabinets all need to be redone. Now, these are those old flat front cabinets from many, many decades ago. You probably want to replace those. I mean, to be realistic, again, if you want to bring this house up to full value, you would want to replace these. If that's not, if you're trying to get it to rental, I would paint them and put maybe new door handles on them. New countertop would be a really great asset for this house because that's a weird color to begin with. And I think, just a regular black splash and granite type countertop would go a long way in this house, make it look great. Back out there into the wilderness. That is just so weird. I wonder if there's a Sasquatch walking around out there. That is crazy. I did notice this also, a lot of crumbling edges on the house, and I'm very concerned about, that looks like more than paint. It could just be paint, but you also see some sagging here under the eaves and in the soffit. And so, yeah, look at that sagging. Yeah, this thing's going to need some roof work. And then I think, that's, you know what? That's the gutter, though. That's the soffit. That's the gutter, and it's hanging down. There's the flashing. The flashing's not flashing right there. If you see what I'm talking about in that area, it doesn't match up right. I would also be really worried about leakage around chimneys. That's one of the places that we will battle on a house. And if you're trying to fix it without replacing the roof, it's really difficult. If you're going to take the roof off, it's a lot easier to fix it, on the underside, and then put your roof down. In a pantry that looks kind of dirty, and blurry and dirty. Oh, my friends, this answers the question that we had a bit earlier about how much pink and blue were we going to find, and it exceeds my expectations. Okay, here's what I would do with this. I would go and find either a blue or pink toilet. I think I would go blue toilet, and then I try to just restore all this back to its pink and blue beauty. Because if you don't, you have a complete bathroom tear out here and modernization, floor to ceiling, and that is not going to be cheap. And that tub needs to go. Technically, this whole bathroom needs to go. Yeah. But if you're not going to go, lean into it, match the toilet. I think the blue toilet would be perfect. It'd just be hard to find that powdery blue, We saw this just a few episodes ago. I don't remember what episode, but, the pink and blue bathroom. Well, we're back into this room with the damage around the edges. Very, very concerning. Very old carpet, guys. There are some of you watching this video right now that have probably never seen carpet like this. I'm an old person, I would say. This is like the carpet that was in my grandmother's house. I've never had carpet like this, and it's been a long time, honestly, since I've been in a house that had it. Kind of cloudy. It looks like clouds, or it's just funny. But, honestly, it's held up pretty good, but I bet that's 1952 right there. Again, I don't see, well, I do see a little crackage. See right there? Upper window frame to ceiling. There's a crack. Yep. Going to see some of that, and then we're seeing some of that up here, this separation where the ceiling panels or sheetrock has shifted a little bit, causing a crack, and then I can see cracks over that doorway. This is a 1952 house. Sometimes we fix the stuff and assume it's just been cracked for many, many years and the house isn't really moving much anymore. And on a rental, we would do that. On a retail sell. This would, they're going to come in, the inspector's going to come in and they're going to check the foundation. And if the foundation is outside a certain variance, they'll say the house requires the house requires a foundation job before it'll pass inspection. And so that is where, this idea of like, do I sell my house to a cash buyer or do I sell it on the retail market? Well, unless you want to fix things, when you go to sell it on the retail market, people want a perfect house that passes inspection. Whereas a cash buyer will say, I'll take it like it is. That's kind of the core difference between selling for wholesale to a cash buyer and selling for retail. Hey, look at that, you guys. University of Texas at Arlington, my alma mater, right here. I think I have that same exact diploma. I've kind of lost it. I'm not sure where it is right now. Floor. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, wow. So, complete cosmetic. I think this house probably needs foundation. That outside condenser unit is what I think we're looking at. Manufacturer year of '08 would make that a lot older than 7 years. That would be what we calculate with our brains as 17 years. See, they said 7 years old, and we are looking at, this is the train. This is, I can tell it's outside, and we're looking at the outside condenser, and it's 2008. That's 17, not 7. 17, not 7. Yeesh, there's some depreciation on that HVAC. Carpet again. There's those windows. Those windows are kind of nice in a bedroom because they allow you to use that wall and while also having windows in it, which is, pretty cool. As you can see, they did right there. Layout of the house is hard to really tell, but it seems to be pretty typical and normal. So we've come in the front door, which was over beyond that way, and walked in and then come around. This, I think, is what you would call formal dining, maybe, or just dining. I don't know. This is the living area. It's got that little inset part. There's that big unit. So, yeah, again, looking up here, I see something going on the ceiling up there. I'm not exactly sure what that is in the photo. You walk in this house, just look around these ceilings. You're going to see, where your problems are. It's not horrible. I do think this house has a lot of deferred maintenance. They lived in it a long time, got a lot of good use out of it, but nowadays I think it's looking pretty rough. And you can see why it's being offered to a cash buyer. We've talked about the kitchen, another blurry picture of it. See, some of the pictures aren't quite as blurry, but others just are. There is half of the laundry room, the washing machine part, and got a microwave in there. I think we're in the laundry room. Could be in the edge of the kitchen. I'm not exactly sure. Not exactly sure. More of that wood paneling. Some decent molding, crown, I guess you'd call that crown molding. It's on the crown. And that's a pretty good, component there. I like that. One of the things that we typically do with this when you go in there, if you don't want to rip all this off and completely redo and retexture these walls, you would paint this, brown or beige or gray, and then do white trim, white ceiling, redo the floors. I think it would look pretty nice. Here is another bathroom. Remember, there was 1.5 is what they said. So this would be the half right there. And it looks sort of pink, but not pink tiles, not blue tiles. Got white stuff in there, porcelain stuff. All right, we're on the back porch, I would assume, and looking at the brickwork is one of the things we'd be looking at in these photos. We're looking for cracks in the brick. We're looking for any repair. We're looking for major separation around doors to the brick wall. I don't see a lot. There's some cracks, pretty typical. Up here is the kind of thing that you're going to see that will indicate, that damage that's occurred because there was shifting in the house. And you can see where this section came in, joined right there. There was some movement, kind of knocked those two bricks out of whack. Don't see any more. The seal around the windows, these look to be very old windows, so it's been a long time since the windows have been replaced. That's another thing, guys, that you get into these old houses, they need a lot of work. We're looking into a closet, and kind of a deep closet. See, this is not the kitchen. Maybe it's the other side of the kitchen. Maybe we've turned around in the kitchen, and we see, I don't really know, but it's got a little desk here, which is pretty convenient. Yeah, honestly, I've seen these just painted nice gray or whatever, white, and you can make this stuff look nice, but you'd really love to replace all those doors, but there's so many doors and so many drawers. That would not be cheap to reface all of that. Yeah, that's some of the decisions you have to make as an investor when you get into it. You can't afford to do everything perfect. You're going to have to make some trade-off decisions. All right, we're looking into a room that's got something all torn up all over the floor. Sure, these are very old windows. As long as they're not although I bet these aren't 1950s. Just looking at them, but it's hard to tell. Like, it almost looks like a vinyl product was put in at some point, but then the edges around the outside didn't necessarily look that way to me. They were put in a long time ago. Going back up, can we see a better look at that ceiling? Yeah, it's just some shifting, crack up there, window to front, door frame, window frame to ceiling. Shifting and cracking. That has occurred. We're outside again. See how we just go inside, outside, inside, outside. I don't know how their pictures got numbered. This soffit area looks fine. There's overgrowth. Again, that's another part of lack of or deferred maintenance. As you see, just a lot of overgrowth around the property, and I believe we're done. Again, the brickwork here doesn't look bad. I'm not seeing cracks. I do see some discoloration there. May have been some repair there. It's hard to tell. But for a 1952 house, the brick's not horrible. Sometimes some of these old houses are pretty rough. Or they got cracked, they had to repair the cracks, and then they'll come in and they'll paint the house. And then decades after that, then you've got a real mess on your hands to kind of, if you want to clean it and repaint it and that kind of thing. We are done with this house. Let's jump over to the calculator and wrap this thing up. It needs full cosmetic, which is 1. That's 100%. And it needs roof. I'm going to put 1. And then it needs general repairs. And let's see, where are we? We didn't, HVAC is a lot older, I think, than we were told. And so I think that, we might want to consider that there is going to be some need for repairs of the HVAC if we get in there. because it's not 7 years, it's 17 years old. That gets us at $40K on a 1,600 square foot house. We're off to a pretty good start. I think this is the wild card on this one. That is the pink bathroom. I think if you're going to change the pink bathroom, you would be looking at, let's see, at least another $4,000 at least. Now, we'll say some of the bathroom cosmetic was already in there, and I just added more because it's a bigger job. Yeah, that. And then if the mold problems are way worse than we thought, this could be as high as a 2, because a lot of mold remediation work, you're going to be looking at $7,000 to $9,000. And so those are the wild cards on this property. How would we know? We would know, what to do next by getting in to see this property. Put our eyeballs on it. Take one of those moisture testers you can get at Home Depot, and check those areas to see where you can find moisture in the walls. It'll tell you a lot. And so that's something to be thinking about. I think this house, honestly, the numbers are going to look something more like this. And it sounds like a lot of money to spend on a little 1,600 square foot 1.5, but it's just so much deferred maintenance and so much potential. That roof was leaking, perhaps around the chimney, but that roof was leaking. And that one room we saw, I think that entire ceiling's got to come out of there. Not just, fix the roof and paint over that. You're probably going to have to tear out all that ceiling material. So, wow, that just gets, and that's when it gets into that, big dollar mold remediation type thing. I would be just thinking, with the assumptions that I've given you guys, I would be at 125 on this house. They're at 150. It's not, it sounds like a lot, 25K, but number one, they may have room to come down on this house to meet you. Yeah, I would want this at 125. I think this house has probably got mold issues, and I think it's just going to need a lot of work. So that's it for today. We're going to go 125 on this house at 4828 Staples Avenue in Fort Worth. Oh, one thing I forgot to show you guys real quick is just where was that house? Where was that house? I wanted to show you where it was. It's here. We're in Fort Worth, and this is the 20 loop, and it's right inside the 20 loop down in that South Hills subdivision. And I'm pretty sure I could find a Family Dollar around there. We don't really have time. We got a Harbor Freight. Hey, guys, come on. You got a Harbor Freight. That tells you a lot. It tells you it's probably a pretty well-developed commercial area. Oh, man, look, they got all kinds of cool things down there. It's a cool area. Come on, guys. Live in South Fort Worth. Or buy it, fix it, rent in South Fort Worth. All right, that's it for today. I hope you had some fun. I'm not going to put anything up. I'm just going to remind you guys, cashoffermasterclass.com. Click get the calculator if you'd like to get the calculator and use the tool for homes that you evaluate in your area. And then you can also just search Cash Offer Masterclass on Google or on YouTube and go right to the content. But you're already here, so why am I telling you? You found it already. I'm glad you did. Hey, did you subscribe yet? Did you like the video? Those are the two things you can do to help this channel. As we I think we passed 600 subs the other day. So that was another 120 or so in the last week. So for those of you that are new, that have just joined us, I just want to say thank you for being a part of the Cash Offer Masterclass community. We're going to have a lot of fun. I got an episode coming up, episode 50 on the 10th episodes. I always do something special. Episode 50, which comes out on a Wednesday if you're following these live. I'm going to be with my good friend Joel Beal, and we're going to talk about the real estate market going into 2026. You'll like that because Joel's a heck of a lot smarter than I am about real estate. And so, and really, in a way, he has a very detailed model that my model is kind of a simplification of what Joel does. He really is a man that knows his numbers. So I think you guys will enjoy hanging out with Joel. I've done a couple of videos with him before, but that's coming up on Wednesday. Look forward to having you join us then. And again, subscribe so that you can get notified when a new video comes out. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.